On May 1st, 2001, Stephanie Stevens would awaken her Hattiesburg, Mississippi mansion and find that her husband David had died during the night. In the days after his death, Stephanie would cause many to look at her. From her yelling at her stepdaughter and fighting with her, to her scrambling through the couple's financial documents, to intriguing comments she made to her country club neighbors before her husband's death. But before we get into that, let's go all the way back to the beginning. Stephanie and David had met while Stephanie was working as a nurse and David was a heart surgeon, and they both work at the same Hattiesburg, Mississippi hospital. Whatever the case, the two began a sexually charged and steamy affair. And according to David's friends and his co-workers, the affair brought out a different side of him. He bought a Harley Davidson motorcycle. He started singing songs, and one of his favorite songs to sing were, "I like my women a little on the trashy side." He began drinking and just being totally different. And while his co-workers noticed, David also should have been watching out for his first wife. His first wife, Karen, knew something was up. She just didn't know what exactly it was. And when she found out about the affair, she confronted David in their front yard. Now, trigger warning, mention of unaliving, mention of possible murder. What happened next is highly debated and highly scrutinized. According to who you may talk to, David or Stephanie either shot Karen or Karen accidentally shot herself. Whatever the case, her death was ruled an accident. Many in Hattiesburg never believed it to be. A few months after Karen's death, David and Stephanie were wedded, a few feet from where Karen had shot herself at the home. The next 3 to 5 years of the couple's marriage went great until David was diagnosed with hepatitis and diabetes, which meant he had to turn in his surgical license and his financial income was cut, leaving Stephanie the grunt of the couple's financial woes. According to neighbors, Stephanie said that she was going on food stamps. She claimed that she would go to Walmart at 3 o'clock in the morning so that people would notice her and ask questions about why she was using an EBT card. She claimed that she was broke. For you see, Stephanie Stevens was used to a much more luxurious income. When David Stevens was a heart surgeon, he was making close to $1 million a year, and they paid for their home to be built outright out of their own pockets. According to Stephanie, she arrogantly told a neighbor, "I designed this house. David provided the money and I provided the expertise, and it takes money to please me." Her stay in heaven would be short-lived. Once David was pronounced dead, all of Stephanie's money was cut. David Stevens' family fought the judge to freeze his assets so that Stephanie could not run through his money. They also contacted his life insurance company to make sure that they did not pay out because they believed Stephanie was involved in David's death somehow. And they were right. Stephanie Stevens, according to the complaint, had poisoned her husband with 2 different drugs, one to stop his heart and one to stop his lungs. Whichever came first, David Stevens died that night. Stephanie Stevens would be arrested in 2003 on her 33rd birthday. When she went to trial, the prosecutors painted her as a greedy and manipulative woman who went after David solely for his money. And once his heart surgery money ran out, she herself devised a plan for his life insurance. They put numerous people on the stand to testify about Stephanie's character, including her now current boyfriend, who was living in the Mississippi mansion with her. Also, they put on her friends who testified that Stephanie made comments to them about how she had poisoned and murdered her husband. Stephanie, however, this was her defense. Everyone in the world was lying but her. Her defense attorney claimed that ever since she stepped foot in Hattiesburg, Stephanie did not get along with people and everyone did not like her, and they described her as a tramp or a floozy simply because men were very attracted to her. Whatever the case, when the case was turned over to a jury, it took them 1 day to determine a verdict. Stephanie Stevens was found guilty on all counts relating to the death of her husband, David Stevens. She was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. On October 14th, 2006, over 3 years into her life sentence, Stephanie Stevens would die at a Mississippi hospital of double pneumonia. She was just 39 years old.